one and all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brown, and with me for the very first time is our astonishing art director. Say hi, astonishing art director.
Astonishing art director.
Allison, thank you so much. My second astonishing art director from Dimension 20. This is so exciting. I'm so grateful that you agreed to chat with me. So excited for everything that we're going to talk about. But first things first, which intrepid hero would be best at Ninja Warrior?
Oh God. That's a good question. My gut reaction said Lou.
Yeah.
But though, after watching Game Changer, or not Game Changer. Yes, it was Game Changer, where Brennan just like all of those push-ups, I might be
Yes. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I think...
I tried the course, it was hard.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe you. It looks hard. The vibe I like to do on these interviews is I start with a question that is virtually indecipherable for everyone other than the two people talking. I just like to start things bad for the viewer.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I'm super excited to talk to you because obviously we're halfway through now, Fantasy High Junior year. We've had some really incredible maps. You were, I mentioned the art director for this season, as Casey McGeorge was art directing Burrow's End, and I assume whatever comes next, based on nothing specific, except for your resume that lists that you're the second assistant art director on season 22, which is the next season. And I'm not going to ask you what it is, but obviously, like, you know, first of all, we know there's more things coming. We know Never Stop Blowing Up is coming. We know Dungeons and Drag Queens 2 is coming. Like, we know there are more shows coming. But yeah, I'm super curious. Like, how did you get here to Dimension 20? What was that sort of journey like? Because unlike so many other folks, you don't have the Ithaca College connection that everyone else in the art department does.
It's hilarious, actually, because for one, Ithaca is gorgeous. You know, you gotta know it. My husband actually went to Cornell, and I almost went to Colgate, so I almost hit that like Ithaca, New York centric thing. I guess the short version is about a little less than a year ago. I was looking for work, as many people in my industry were pre-strikes, and I saw a post on a Facebook group that was like, "We're looking for an art director for a comedy D&D thing," and it was just kind of, you know, vague. And I was like, "Comedy and D&D, I love D&D, and I know I'm an art director. Like, let's do it." And I applied, and then looked up Casey and freaked out, and told myself all weekend, like, I'm not gonna get a call back. Like, there's probably hundreds of people that saw this post, and then I got an interview with them, and kept it pretty cool. Panicked afterwards, and then by the time I had finished writing my like, "Thank you so much for interviewing me, like, you know, if you need any other information," I already had an email in my inbox saying, "We'd love to have you." And it is just
amazing.
Like jumping on a moving treadmill ever since, and I love every second. So
I've never been employed by anyone at Dropout, but having gotten to interview some like big folks there, I get the vibe of like, I think I played it cool. Although like I interviewed Abria, and when I was watching back my interview, I was like, "Boy, you're swearing a lot more than you normally do in this interview. I think you wanted to seem cool, and somehow you like jumped into like, well, if I say fuck a lot, she's gonna think I'm cool."
Abria has a very infectious energy about her,
yes.
too. And so it's just like, you once you start, you just go. You just go and you ride the Abria wave. So, and part of it was because as I think you know, we basically ended up shooting Burroughs End and Fantasy Out Junior Year like very, very back to back. And it was just the sheer lift of both projects was a lot. And, you know, just managing that many people and the teams and the time. And we had the shop was huge. It was full. We had tons of model makers for both. So I was really, really grateful to be able to come on and like help. And I learned so much from Casey, and by learning and like watching what was going on with Burroughs End, I was able to sit in actually during a lot of it. And it was super helpful in figuring out how the sausage is made and how to interface when we started working on junior year like in earnest. So
yeah, that's super cool. I'm well, I guess I mean we're gonna jump all over the place because I'm not a great interviewer, but I'm excited about things.
I think you can say that to be more dramatic.
Yeah, that's probably true. As the like moderator for the actually panel at PAX East, I think I do have to stop pretending like I'm not good at this. Were you a D20 fan prior to this? I know you are into TTRPGs and into D&D.
So I had I was more into Dropout than D20 specifically. When I interviewed, I had only seen Pirates of Leviathan because I came from like a Critical Role world of fandom. Because when you're a PA out here in LA and you do a lot of driving, you need to listen to podcasts. So I started listening to Critical Role, and then went, "Hey, Matt and Marisha are in this thing. Oh, with some other cool people. Let's subscribe to this thing." And then it just once Dropout started putting all of the Game Changer clips and everything on social media, I was just hooked. But
yeah,
before I started working, I had only seen most of Pirates of Leviathan and had a lot of catching up to do. Yep.
Yeah, especially since you're jumping into junior year, obviously, like you needed in-depth knowledge of freshman year, sophomore year. I guess Pirates did help because at least you were still in universe, but then also the 7, I'm sure.
I downloaded whoever has all those transcripts, by the way, on the wiki, like to you, oh my god. I had downloaded all of them and like made them searchable and was like looking and taking pictures and compiling because first thing out the gate is like, okay, let's figure out these PCs and like what they're doing. And I was like, okay, Fabian is trying to like make it all make sense very quickly in a very short period of time. Binged a lot of D20.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I'm so curious, like this is probably technically the most advanced season of Dimension 20. I know we're halfway through. Obviously, we have at least a couple of maps left that we've seen in like the Legend of Rick Perry and whatnot. Like, we know there is stuff to come. How I know you said getting to see Burroughs End was helpful. How much? How surprised were you at the 70 people are here working on minis level of intensity coming into this?
I mean, I think I'm not sure even surprised is sort of what it was. It was like I expected there to be like some amount of lift since there's just so many, especially after Crown of Candy. Just like the sheer number of things and pieces and touches and bits. And it was exciting and fun to see everybody doing incredible things that I've done a little bit of mini painting and some model making for theater and TV, but like not that it's a whole another ball game with them. And it's definitely I'm used to managing teams of a number of people, so that definitely helped. But it was exciting and it's fun to see and like talk to everybody and get their experiences and just be wowed on the regular by tiny little I don't know, turtles eating pie. So
yeah. I know I saw on your website you had like a small a mini chair that you had built, and I was like, that's very cool. I wonder did you come and be like, no, I can do this too, and then see what they're doing, be like, oh, holy cow.
It's definitely so, and I think Casey's mentioned this as well. Coming from like theater design school backgrounds, like mini model making is sort of our bread and butter. You get used to doing it. I took a lot of classes and how to do it. I have a lot of models from when I was doing opera and Shakespeare, but it's a whole different thing because that's not for camera, really, not normally. And it's definitely a situation where I feel like I'm familiar enough, but I'm not fast enough to know what's going on. And so like there were a couple of days where I get in there and like get in the trenches and help prime some stuff. Or there was one night Jesse and I were like up finishing some of the minis kind of late and like most like little touches, nothing huge. But it is really it is they're a league of their own for sure. Every single one of them. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, having gotten to talk to quite a few of them at this point, Jessie is on my list still. She keeps dodging my demands that she hops on a call with me. The humbleness of some of the folks is, it's not frustrating, but it's like, just let me talk to you. You guys are geniuses, and I include you on that list because I know when I first reached out, you were like, do we have to?
It's like how far? How long can I stay down here? Especially as somebody coming into this this season. It's the thing I think that probably actually I was the most surprised. Well, not surprised. Was like the first day on Discord. The very first episode was just like, it's like, oh, okay, hello everybody, hi. So it's exciting. It's so fun to see how much everybody loves it.
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. Like that. I mean, like I mentioned, that it's a junior year of like everything to come in. Like you come in at really like the peak excitement for fans of people have wanted this for 4 years now, hoping every time new seasons were announced, it was like, will it be junior year this time? And like to the
horse season. Just saying. You all know.
Yes. Yeah.
Right after Percy Jackson.
Yeah, right after Percy Jackson. Oh man, truly one of my absolute favorite things that's ever happened. And like such a joy to like get to talk to like Jasper about it. I've talked to him about it, and I talked to Carlos about it. Just like so much fun. And I had the very fun moment in that where I posted a video where I was like, hey, I think you all are ignoring the like blue and the tree and just focusing on the lightning bolt. And boy, did the Percy Jackson fans come for me to explain that blue is actually very important to Percy Jackson. I was like, all right, well, I'm 40 years old. I've never read it. I'm sorry.
I read the first book a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm actually probably going to watch the season, the Disney, but whatever, no, it's fun seeing what people now, also with Never Stop Blowing Up, for example, all of the wild guesses that are floating around and, other things that are yet to come, things people hope for. So it's fun. It's fun. I'm kind of lurk on Reddit and in the Discord and, watch as things go by and chuckle to myself. Like we all, I'm sure others do. So.
Yeah. I am. And I think inevitably someone will have guessed it right because it's that like a million monkeys and a million typewriters kind of thing of like everyone is guessing everything. But yeah, it's very fun as a chief like wild speculator out there in terms of just like what could it be. It's very fun because I never expect to be right. I fully expect to be wrong, but it's still very fun to just like hop in and be like, what if it's this?
I think it's also just so exciting because I can't. There really is not a ton out there that I can think of that each season has such a a genre that is so dramatically different and like a story type and being able to play around and bounce around through that and being able to guess and wanting to guess and trying to piece together little hints and clues in the backgrounds of people's, I don't know, like Instagram stories. It's exciting, and it's exciting for us because every time it's like, okay, what's the new brief? Like, what's the new thing we get to play with and learn?
Yeah.
And that's joy, really.
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm one of those people that very much is following everyone I can on Instagram. So I'm like, oh, Rick Perry's in LA. How interesting, kind of a thing. Where I'm like, well, look, I guess they're spinning up the next seasons because Rick Perry wouldn't be off Lopez Island if it wasn't important. But yeah, it's yeah, who's to say? Yeah. I mean, to be fair, everyone who lives on Lopez Island is currently in LA. So I'm like, all right, well, there, obviously, like something's happening. But yeah, it does get like the fandom. I'm curious, like having come into this, like at this point, what is it like getting to see that like reaction, both to like the show in general, but periodically you have shared some like behind the scenes stuff on your Instagram. Like what is it like getting to have, like, I assume, pretty wild reactions to that stuff?
It's I mean, it's very rewarding because what we're making is it's like making something for your friends. I think Brennan has actually talked about this, but then also getting to share that joy with like hundreds of thousands of people. And we get the players' reactions, their excitement, their sorrows, their joy, their story beats, and then get to like watch it get like again, and how the fans process it and talk about it and theorize, and it's very fulfilling. It's so exciting. I've had a number of my friends from like all tracks of life messaging me. People I've not talked to in like decades have been like, I just saw your name, and I'm just like, oh, hello. Hi, who are you? So that's been it's fun, and it's been very it's rewarding, and it's also rewarding in that we can share, we can show these little details. We see a lot during the mini shoots, but we shot like, I can't remember how many hours of content we shot in the mini shoot. Shabak told us one point it was insane. We could have probably quadrupled the season over with just mini shoot stuff. And there are so many details that people want to see, and it's hard because they talk about like this thing in the corner, and like unless there's a shot of it or they pick it, there you don't see it. And it's great that Kelsey and Sadie and Jesse and Raven and Casey can like say, hey, here's this thing, like, you want to look at it, here it is, and the process of it. And you can see that it's also like this thing that a person made, and it's personal, and it's specific to this character, this player, this world. And I think it's just a lot of really like lovely like grounding of that. It feels special.
Yeah.
And it feels like a really nice way to connect with everybody and see. And again, in other shows I've worked in, it's really, aside from things you see potentially like in like Emmys and Oscars where they're talking about production design, the person who's like, I painted that wall, doesn't like talk about that online. You can. Most people don't. It's not the same. It's a different monster in that way. And it's so lovely that, these model makers, these people, everybody behind the scenes, the makeup artists, costume, hair, all of them, everybody gets so much attention and love. And that's really special.
Yeah, it's super fun as one of those fans that gets to like, that really wants to see. I mean, obviously, look, this interview series exists for a reason. I want to see I want to talk about the behind the scenes, and I love getting to see that stuff. Where like, the one that always jumps to mind is Flaky Smothers from the Ravening War. Just because like we didn't get to see him on camera, like, well, and so like getting to like those like backup minis and stuff like that Shane shares or whoever shares. Yeah, it's always so much fun to see. Like, oh, I think it was Jesse that shared like, and this is a great transition. The Vulture King mini build. Yeah. So the Vulture Dimension.
The Vulture.
When did you get brought in on what sounds like a full like mania break during a pre-production meeting?
I think that by the time I jumped in, Brennan and Rick had already talked about the Vulture Dimension. I'm pretty sure, almost positive. So much of like I just remember like my very first meeting with them, was sort of Brennan talking about how much it is important to like hold up the bit, no matter how stupid, like to this level of I think grandiosity is probably the word he used. And man, is the Vulture Dimension that like quadruple times over, and what a joy. We were so excited, so happy. It was so fun. It was so fun to bait them and to watch it just unfold exactly probably as Brendan expected.
Yeah, just a magic watching, because I remember in the first fight where there was the vulture and they're like, there's a vulture, and I was like, oh, that's funny. And then in this one where there was another one, and I was like, I can't believe Allie is fully just like wasting their turn going over there. Like Principal Grix is like killing people and badly hurt, and Allie's like, I want to talk to the vulture. And then like the animatic starts, and like, yeah.
Cackling, cackling,
yeah,
waiting for it to happen. Just a beautiful thing, and just the way that it works with the projections, like feathers, and just so good.
Yeah, I'm talking to Derek and Ruby, I think next week, because also I was like, we got to talk about the Vulture Dimension projection as well. Like, there's, I don't remember, I think they posted something, I think Derek posted something about like how many individual feathers they had to like animate for it to work. It's like, I
want to say Kate made like a brush. I remember we talked about this. Kate made like a brush for it, and that way they could just play with it, and but the whole thing was a masterpiece. So good.
So I think I messaged Carlos because I got to see that episode early, and I messaged him because the beautiful thing about getting to see episodes periodically early is like it's amazing and I love it, and like of course I want that every week. The bummer is when something like Squeam happens and you're sitting by yourself and you're like, I don't know, I don't have anyone to talk to about this. Yeah, it was.
The confusion over Squeam was, I think, very surprising to many of us. We were like, wow, they're confused. Okay. But no, back to Thistle Spring though. The Thistle Spring battle in general, I think, is probably was the shop's probably favorite fight. It was the third of the season, so there was enough time to like really let it like marinate and like sink in, and like the time spent on the tree and all the little details and all the little, the little nods here and there, like the ficus is there, and it's just everybody really got to like have such a blast with that one, on top of the mania of the bots and everything too. We actually had a wash party for it because everyone loved it so much here not that long ago. So it was really nice.
It's super fun. Yeah. I know it was in, I think it's Emily's behind the scenes. We saw like the drawing of the lawnmower, and everyone at the time, everyone was like, what is happening? And like,
surprised they left that in.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised.
I think because it like is so wild and just like without context so indecipherable, like that it was something to just be like, this is funny and will make people lose their minds for a minute, and then when that showed up in the Thistle Spring fight, like people finally were like, oh, I know where this is from.
When we demoed the first time, we demoed the projection that like it's like this, we're all sitting in Video Village, and like Brennan was like focused in on prep that day, and we're just watching it going around and being like, what are we doing? But also, this is what we're doing, and it's such a joy. But like, what's happening? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it was so funny, and just their expressions and the sheer like the way Zach played it. I just love it. Every moment, it just felt so good to make someone react that way. It was great.
Yeah. Um, oh man, so much fun. Such a fun fight. Just yeah, like so silly and scary. And then I was like I had messaged Carlos and I was like the Vulture Dimension is so stupid. Parentheses complimentary. Like it's so funny and so stupid. But like absolutely perfect.
And such a saving grace for them because man, they were when you've
Yeah,
got your party stunned like that, you're in trouble. Like, and I, part of again other conversations and as a DM, like when you've got players who are these higher levels, you got to figure out how to make it scary. Otherwise, there's no stakes. And I think Brennan has really nailed it this season. I think with that,
yeah.
and the way that and the way that he and Carlos and Rick were talking and figuring things out and making, planning the maps out and figuring out how things could happen. I think we really tackled some of the things that make higher level play harder on a DM, altogether. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I see, like the first fight against the Night Orb, super fun and very like intense, especially like dropping in like in media res of like, oh, you've already like spent some spell slots, you're already hurt, blah blah blah. I think it's really a really smart way to start the season. Um, and then yeah, the mall fight, boy, what a stunning set that was. I tried to get Casey to chat with me about it, and they were going to, and then got too busy with whatever y'all are working on now. And they're like, no one will care about the mall fight like in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, that's not true, but fine, go be busy.
yeah, that was so fun and so exciting to like plan. Casey, was working with Rick drafting it all out. I think either while Burrow's End was shooting, or there was one night I remember we were all staying late. They were drafting, and I was like talking with our minis, the 3D printers and stuff, and trying to figure it all out. And like all of the little pieces and all of the mall props, all the clear resin, which are none of which are like actually attached or glued down, aside from I think like the bank with like where the palm trees are. Everything is its own piece. So I think that map has the most minis on it. I think of the season, probably because of all of like the trash cans and the strudel wizards and all of the little elementals. And it spent, I think, I want to say the team took, like, when we brought it over and they had to like place everything, it took them like almost an hour to place everything.
yeah,
And I'm furious. I'm taking notes, trying to be like, okay, this trash can is on this grid square because we have to redo it in the mini shoot and it has to be exact.
right.
So
Yeah,
that one was like a 3-dimensional chess puzzle in its own way. Um, and we're all just like super fragile. But man, when we turned it on with the light box and it glowed, it was
yeah. It
so.
was such a stunning set. I think it was Kelsey posted the picture. It's, I think my favorite picture ever. It's Casey like has like their like keyboard. I'm trying to raise my keyboard up so you can see it, and then like at their eye level is a second like desk that they're looking at, and it's just like that. It's so
Yep.
bizarre and so funny. Yeah,
It was really.
yeah. Um, yeah, like, obviously like we've seen those 3 sets. Obviously with like more to come. Not getting into that, but yeah, like the level of detail I think is really one of the things that fans love. And I know like when I talked to Kate May, we talked about specifically the mall fight, that the minis, the chairs didn't have like backs, like didn't have like poles to them, and in her original drawings she did, and so she like very quickly went through and like erased like that so that they like the projection mall would match the mini malls, and I love that level of detail. Like as the art director, like how is it even possible to try and keep track of that much detail?
With a lot of for sure. And specifically in that case, one of the other like things that I really love that happened during this season is we basically were building things while Kate was drawing. So, we would send everybody all the same research, and Rick would do his drawings up, and Kate would send us sketches, and we would send them back, like, here's the state of this mini, and here is some color ref. And then when Kate would have more sketches, I would print them out and show the department. And so we were informing each other as the show happened. And that was, I think, part of what makes it so cohesive this season, because everything was happening at the same time under the same kind of purview. And it was just so exciting and fun. But it's a lot to manage, a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and notes and notepads and reminders. Having Casey around, and Raven and Jesse, who have all done this a number of times before, and a number of our other model makers, and so helpful to know what needs to be done and how and when, and the best methods. We had an incredible assistant art director, David Peters, who he and I are very close, and he helped keep me on track too, and we're all just trying to just chug. You gotta just kind of stay on top of it, and keep it going and organized. And it's a lot of double checking things, and a lot of asking Rick the same question multiple times, and he doesn't mind, so that's good. Which is nice, because I definitely was a little bit paranoid for the first few weeks, that I was like, okay, I need to be doing this well enough. I need to stay. This is important. But everybody was so great, and the production team side too. Communicating constantly with Denise about the looks and battles, and Hallie and Brennan and Carlos, just everybody all together. We really just connected and kept it all just flowing. Which is so important, and is not dissimilar to a lot of things that happen in the world of television that I came from. So that was super familiar, and really, really helpful, actually.
Yeah, I'm actually super curious about speaking of that, that sort of reality TV versus scripted TV versus Dimension 20 versus theater. What sort of is there a thread that sort of connects them? Are they such different beasts? What makes them similar and different?
The little bit of reality that I've done is more similar in the suddenly something is happening and you need to go out and get something right now, moment, or oh, they want this extra summon, let me quickly find a model, and we'll get it printed overnight so they can have it for tomorrow. Those last minute finds or needs are much more similar in that way, because it's not scripted, and even if we know what's coming, we never know what's coming, because it's this show in this group, and you gotta just constantly be on your feet, and that's so fun. The scripted world is, I guess, a bit more like normal theater in a way, because what you're working with from the get-go. You know the beats, the needs, you plan everything out from beginning to end, and well, sort of, depending on the show, obviously, but it's a bit more tangible. I mean, there are still script changes, obviously, TV, but for the most part, you've got a thing and you know what it is. But it's also much more, in my case, it's much more hands-on than working on a Netflix show has been. Sometimes you'll do a graphic or two, depending on the show, but as opposed to really being able to get in the trenches in a theater production, or in this case this show, doing graphics and helping literally putting things together, and I really missed that, I think, from some of my early first couple of years doing TV out here. I was I really like the work and I love the people, but I'm I want to draw. I want to get something that's there. I want to feel it and interact and be on set too. And that's the thing that's really been nice. I've been able to be on set when they're filming the show, and be able to be reacting and keeping an eye and know what's going on, which is so nice. It's good to be in the know.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine obviously very helpful, especially like when things are changing. Like, next week they're going to Falinel. And there's in the preview we see I don't know, well, I mean, it seems very intentional, but like the old dome like graphics instead of like what we are seeing normally, and already wild speculation out there that it means it's time travel, like all sorts of stuff, of like what could this mean. And one of the wild things is people will just DM me with their theories, which I very much love. But like literally just be like, I'll open up Instagram and it's like, do you think it's this? And I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, it's sort of in a similar vibe. When they shot the Dropout Presents recently, and I got to talk to Sam really shortly after that, and I knew where Sam was during Dropout Presents, and I knew what he was wearing because people had messaged me to like let me know. Because obviously I didn't attend any of the shows, so it's very strange to just be like, yeah, I have like a really weird depth of knowledge about things because people just send me their theories. But yeah, boy, I don't know if that was a question at all. Let's jump back into an actual question. Thaco Bell. Mwah, so good.
So
Uh, yeah, it was my favorite one. I messaged Rick about it. He told me that it was you that had pitched it. And then I attempted everywhere I saw someone talking about it, because I saw it in quite a few places, to give you the credit you deserved for it. So like if someone was talking, because I saw a few posts, people like, like talking about them on Reddit, and I was like, that one's Alison, like, and like
oh,
dropped like anytime I could see. Boy, what was that? I mean, a meeting, an email thread. What was the process for store names?
I think very early on, once we realized it was sort of spectral astral dimension mall, I mean, the show's already had like puns in it, pun store names, and every good D&D game needs some fun puns. Uh, and I think it was just a decision, and we're like, let's just crowdsource a whole bunch, and I asked the shop. We had a Slack thread going, I think. I even was like talking to my husband and being like, what are some puns that you can think of? I think Ochre Jellius is my second favorite.
It's very good.
As a big lover of Orange Julius at our mall, like not going there, just seeing it, just like
Mm-hmm.
So having that be in there was also great. Yeah, we had I think a good like 20 or 30 names we had to like cut down on. But yeah, it was great, and we had the graphics done, and like lasered in there to look like the stores, and then Kate added with the projections, build a bugbear being my favorite with the little uh flower reference.
Yeah, so good. Also another favorite thing that like the fandom was just like, hey, and like a screenshot of like this one frame of like, that's KP Hobb,
Yeah,
like in Build a Bugbear, and I was like, that's a solid work.
it's so fun, and it was just it's so rewarding too, because then Brennan knows, like we talk, we clear everything, with them, but it's still the joy of like seeing it and like seeing him react and the cast reacting to the stuff and being like, oh, look at that, and it's it is a joy.
Yeah,
And just like little ways to feel like being part of the conversation and being part of it, and making it all happen. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's so good. And I mean, on the plus side, the mall exploded, and theoretically, they will have to build a new mall. So maybe you got, like, I'm assuming not this season. You don't have to say whether or not, but like maybe the cut names can be in the next mall. And like, since all of those stores were destroyed, yeah,
That gateway through the Strudel dimension.
yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine is a baker, and I believe they are going to make a video where they're making strudel and talking about Dimension 20,
You will have
which
to see that
is,
as soon as it happens.
yeah, absolutely delightful. Shout out Dan the Baker. Yeah, super fun. Yeah, I'm glancing at my notes because I'm like, what? What? Because my notes are just nonsense. But yeah, like I said, also I jump around a lot. So back to Thistle Spring. One of the things that I I was shocked about in the preview was the full nudity on display in the minis. Super funny. Was what was the orders down from Rick? What was the discussion like of like there's going to be a nudity tent? Get cracking.
You know, it was sort of just like, all right, like makes sense, like let's do it, and
I guess at that point you had been working on the lawnmower probably, so like nudity in the minis probably wasn't that surprising.
yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where we did have to, we source a lot of our minis, on STL websites and seeing things, and there's definitely sort of this section online we had to go to, be like, okay, we need to like, yes, I'm older than 18, and then like, we're buying the rights for files or whatever. We're sending production these emails being like, please just go with the flow here. Please just accept it. But yeah, I you do it makes sense when it happens, and I think it was just fun and like lighthearted, and it kept everything kind of amusing and silly. And sometimes you'd be like, well, this is what's happening, and you don't share certain things to Instagram because your parents are there, and you're like, all right,
Yeah,
fine.
and I don't. You might not be able to share it on Instagram. I don't know what Instagram's rules about. Yeah,
The last I saw, there was like a black bar in
yeah.
front of things, I'm pretty sure. Um, but Frosty Fair was fun too because Brennan gave us like some really good research about some of the events he's been to and his familiarity with it, and everybody kind of chipped in and talked about some stuff. And I think that going from that, also just like right from the mall, like the contrast of those two sets, like very like geometrical and like all one color, to this like very verdant, bright, the flashing stage lights. Oh, here's a fun fact: the flashing stage lights are on little 3D printed minis of the actual stage lights that they would be. We took the actual, like stage lighting, and had them printed up and hung them, so they actually, which was really fun.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Um, but it was just, it's silly and it's fun, and that is the joy of it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know Siobhan in her behind the scenes called it. I think she called it the Goofs season. And then the second episode hit when it was like as like they were just like beaten down and driving back, and everyone was so sad, and like all of the internet was like, "Hey, Siobhan, not just goofs." But
it's I was definitely like, we're full cackling backstage most of the time, watching what's going on, especially during the adventuring parties. There are some nights like the blanket night where it's freezing on that stage, so we understand. But just I have some screenshots when that was happening, just because I was just like, this is so ridiculous, and it is late, and we are all like wired and exhausted at the same time. And man, do we feel that. Like, it was just that, that whole vibe. And and it's a fun, and there are some really moving, really lovely moments, like the recent episode with when they find Yolanda's body, and Kristen's miracle there, and the weight of what they, that conversation is potentially what caused it, and that's heavy, and it's exciting in its way that it gets Kristen to kind of internalize what's going on, their faith and what's happening. I think I only emotionally cried one time all season. We haven't seen it yet. It is the very last episode. Sky turned to me. We were back like in Video Village, and it looked at me, and I'm just like full sobbing. But, for the most part, it has a really great arc all around for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. There are some big dramatic moments, there are some really emotional moments and some sad moments, but they really just had like a wild ride of a time. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you can see it, and it's silly and it's so fun. And it's so
yeah,
dumb, but it's so good.
yes, yes, yeah. I mean, I think I don't know if it's coming off of like Never After was the last season they did, where it was like really intense and horror, that like they really just got to be like goofy and silly, and then like also return to characters that they know and love. Super, super fun. I mean, I know, I mean, next week, we got in the preview the return of Baron from the Baronies. So we're also getting for sure terrifying moments because God, Baron is so upsetting.
Remind me once it airs, I need to send you something.
Yes, yes, I
I have
will.
an excellent BTS picture
Oh, I
once that
can't
airs,
wait.
because that I just need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the really fun things, and I'm sure, but I'm sure very difficult. It's so I love Worlds Beyond Number. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it. It's Brennan, Abria, Lou, and Erica, and it's the fun thing is it's Brennan sort of unrestrained by maps and minis. So like there is no like, well, we got to get to the mall because we're gonna have a mall. Like they built the mall set. It's Brennan being like, we can go literally wherever you want. I got no plans. But I know, like, obviously, there is still some aspect of that, in terms of what the players do and what Brennan does. What is it? And you said like you're on set, and not to like try and get you to be like, what moment like broke you or whatever, but like, are there those moments where you're like, oh no, like they just changed something that we gotta like, I need to get back to the workshop right now.
Been some. It's usually not like huge big changes, if anything. I think, which speaks to Brennan's ability to keep them keep them on track, but like not on track because it's like in that way that it's making sure things get where they need. Just
Yeah,
it's
they're
not
professional
strict everybody.
improvisers. They're yes, yeah, they're yes anding the like
Yeah.
they know what the story they know that it's not go wherever there are some beats to hit.
It's more the like, oh, like this was like a new thing that just like happened, we need to like add a mini this battle, or potentially like I think one of the things, for example, actually during the session 0 we did, Siobhan was like, oh, I have conjure minor elemental, and we were like, oh, we should get some elementals for you, and like quickly ran and like got a whole bunch. It's like little things like that where it's how can we add and support the choices that they're making, you know, um, in that way. And sometimes it's trying to figure out, oh, like what else would be on this in this mall set. How about like,
Mhm.
oh, they've got trays of food. What else do you get at a mall? I don't know. How about shrimp? It's that
The
kind of
shrimp.
choice.
Yeah.
There is shrimp in, I think, at least there's shrimp like in almost every battle. Basically, they're hidden. There's a shrimp. There are shrimp hidden in Thistle Spring. There are no shrimp hidden in Vulture Dimension, though, to my awareness. But
Yeah.
the next few also keep an eye out for the shrimp. Everybody, you can send me them if you find them. Um, but it's that same thing, right? It's how do we support the bit? How do we make them
Mhm.
have the best time and tell the best, most exciting and interesting story? Um,
Yeah, one
well,
of my favorite that kind of stories is it was during, I think, Coffin Run. I'm like 90% sure. And they make a joke that one of the NPCs has 6 buttholes. And then when that mini shows up in the next fight, Shane had put 6 buttholes on it. And they're like, we just said this, and now it's like it's a real thing in front of us.
there is a moment that is yet to come where someone says something, and I literally ran out the studio down to a store to go get something so we could hand it to them in the next like 20 minutes. And I was very proud of myself for that. They were like, how?
That's very good.
I was like, here it is. So, yeah, it's very much just, you gotta be ready to go, all in, and we make it happen.
Yeah, that's super fun. Yeah, I know. I've talked to like Vic, Michaelis a ton about VIP, and like that sort of like so good. Yeah, but sort of like that similar vibe of like they call for something, and then like they have like a huge table of props, but like they walk out with because so the Nana episode, the book that they have that they read from is a book of acrylic nails. There is obviously no like paper or text in it. They just open the acrylic nail book and improv like the chapter that they're reading, and then like close it. But like like whoever like the director and various folks backstage are like, okay, what do we have that kind of looks like a book? It's like, oh, here it is, like take it out. And it's like that level of, because everything is improvised, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, and then the commit to the bit of as Brennan would say, like being a bit janitor of like, all right, someone said a thing, time to clean it up, like so good.
It's
Yeah,
and it's I've worked on a couple other like smaller non-union things where suddenly they'll be like, oh, we're shooting this today instead, and you're like, oh, well, gotta make it work now. And it is this quick like, how do we make this happen so fast. And I think one of the things that really is important in this field is being able to take something and then run with it that way and that quickly, and be able to just not like think about it, but like just go.
yeah,
and that is something that obviously improvisers learn, and is important. And I think a lot of the team has also really embraced, and I think it's what makes a lot of them so good at what they do too. Is suddenly it's like, never mind, this person is wearing this instead. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All the time. So
yeah. Which I just think is part of that magic of the show, of just like, oh yeah, it's wild things are happening, but it feels like we get to be in on the joke with it. I know you mentioned like cackling through adventuring parties. I'm curious, in your like binging of Dimension 20, were you aware of truly how wild adventuring parties got, or was that like a joyous thing to discover on set?
I think I discovered, because I when I was watching when I was actually like watching the first season doesn't have adventuring parties at all, so obviously,
right.
And then they start adding them. I think, they have, it was called something slightly. There was something different for sophomore year. I apologize, I'm not actually fully sure. But yeah, no, there were definitely some nights where we're there and they're just talking about breakfast sandwiches, and I'm just like, okay, all right. I mean, it makes sense, but that's again part of the joy. I think it's always really good to have a like a post session like chat with your group. As a DM myself, like I love sitting and talking with them afterwards and being like, hey, like what worked, what didn't, like what's good, and like, did you like the pasta? Whatever comes up. And it definitely is helpful for them. It's helpful, and fun for us, and it definitely allows, I think, the audience to feel that sense of seven friends at a table really playing together. And obviously they're doing it professionally and to be recorded, but at the end of the day they are just having a blast, and being genuinely curious about like game mechanics or what's happening, and trying to figure out what is happening in Brennan's glorious brain. So it's fun.
To get, I think maybe the most important question I will ask you then the whole time, grape jelly on bacon, egg, and cheese, thoughts, feelings?
I'm a lover of food in general. There are very few things I don't like to eat. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see that mostly all I post is food. I did not try the jelly on the sandwich. I have tried like pepper jelly on sandwiches, on breakfast
Mm-hmm.
sandwiches and things. Um, but I am very happy to try anything. I can see why it would work, for sure. Um, yeah, I also have been trying to find the raspberry mustard. I know it. I know.
I Yeah, I got I got some. It was raspberry wasabi. Oh boy,
Oh,
was it tasty!
that sounds so
Yeah, yeah. It's available on Amazon. Someone bought it for me because my life's very weird, and I can just ask people to buy things sometimes on the internet, and they do.
I
Yeah.
definitely was it during birth, and Jasper brought some like tea from the UK, and
Hmm.
I was like, it was just in our like castle kitchen, and I tried some, and I was like, ordering this on Amazon now forever. Just like got like a huge just collection of British teas upstairs. It's so fun to see like the wild things that come out of that, and like exploring and trying stuff, and the joy of it in that way.
Yeah.
It's great. But yes,
Yeah.
I will not say no to a breakfast sandwich with grape jelly on it until I try it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I love that. Just
Although I
like,
would say a thing that came up that was not brought up that I think would also be a contender would be like a spicy aioli.
hmm
Always good.
yeah, agreed. Look, oh man, I haven't
Yeah.
found any. Like, I made the mustard and the grape jelly. I love both of them. I'm there for it. Um, Allison, this has been absolutely incredible. If the folks did want to follow you on Instagram to see those wonderful pictures of food and sometimes behind the scenes stuff, where can they find you?
Sure. I am at Poetical Pirate on Instagram, also Twitter, and I think that might also be my Discord handle. But yeah, you can find me there. Thank you so much, Jordan. This was great.
Oh, this was absolutely delightful. I'm so grateful any of these interviews ever happen, because every single one of them is so much fun. I'm also, fun fact, I do not know how to end an interview, so I'm just gonna hit stop recording.
Good.